Hi, this is Michael Uslan. You're listening to Batman on Film.
I'm vengeance.
I have given a name to my pain.
The Batman.
Always waiting for some Batman to save you.
It's simple. We kill the Bat of Gotham. I'm Batman.
Welcome to episode number 86 of the Batman on Film Social Hour podcast. I am the founder of Batman on Film, Bill Ramey. We have a special guest. My old friend Lee Bermejo is here. Lee, if I ever told you the story of how I founded Batman on Film on a web TV in 1998, I don't know if I've ever told. I don't tell that story often. So
I've not heard that story.
This is kind of a running gag because it's gotten to be a bit on these podcasts. But yeah, started Batman on Film on a web TV. You remember web TV, right?
Of course, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Ryan here, senior BOF contributor, was did not know what web TV was.
No. Yeah, all I knew was that old, crinkly dial-up. That's, and sometimes when that wouldn't work, and then your evening was ruined because I wanted to get on the internet, but I couldn't.
Yeah, true story. So
probably AT&T's fault then.
Probably. I believe so. So, Lee, you've got a new book out, and I'm very interested to ask you about Dear Detective. And my number one question is, okay, was this something that was pre-planned with the detective covers to have tell a story with them, or is it something that came along the way or afterwards? Just the genesis, is very interesting to me.
Yeah, it was definitely planned. It was definitely planned from the beginning. And now that the book's out, I'm reading a bunch of people saying like, "Hey, shoehorn the story into this thing," and I'm like, I think some people might have been under the impression that this was going to be a comic book, and I certainly never talked about it as a comic book. I mean, but the intention from the beginning. Okay, I'll tell the story. I'll tell the story. Hopefully it's not too boring for people, but I had just taken over the book in 2019, I think, and I was at Comic-Con in Boston. This is pre-pandemic and everything, of course. And I was talking to Pete Tomasi and Brian Azzarello in the bar one evening, and Pete Tomasi was writing Detective Comics at the time. And I said, "Hey, I think I'm going to try to tell a story with these covers, because I've done so much Batman stuff at this point that I wanted to find a way into these covers that would make it feel like a body of work and not just a string of individual covers or a run of covers. I wanted it to be something that felt like it could stand right next to the other Batman projects that I've done,
Mm-hmm.
And because it's Detective Comics, I thought, well, this is a perfect chance to do something kind of, noir and a detective story of some sort, you know what I mean? And also, I don't think this has ever been done before. So I thought, let me just see if I can give it a shot. And I remember Pete Tomasi saying, I don't think that's such a good idea, because they might get in the way of the story being told in the book. And I remember thinking, that doesn't make much sense to me, because by the time all these come out, or at least enough of them come out that people might have an inkling that something like that's happening, people will have read and consumed those issues, and the stories will have already been completed, like the various story arcs and stuff. And plus, I knew from the beginning that I couldn't put them out in order, because the needs of a monthly book change, so sometimes they'll let me do the iconic cover or my choice, but sometimes they say, hey, we really need you to put the Riddler on this cover, or we need Huntress on this cover, you know? So
Okay. Yeah.
you have to find a way to juggle what they need for the book with what you want to do as well. So I came up with I think I did 7 sketches, and I had about 15 ideas jotted down of what I wanted to do. And at the beginning, it was going to be a night in the life of Batman. And it was going to be him suiting up. So a string of covers of him suiting up in the Batcave, going out in the Batmobile, responding to the bat signal, meeting Gordon on the roof, going to the crime scene, starting to investigate the crime scene. It was a string of these images that eventually wound up being part of the book. And I didn't know how long I was going to be able to stay on the project, because, I mean, you guys have heard about DC, you know, the past 4 years for that company has been tumultuous, to say the least.
Mhm.
So I kind of treated it as, let me start doing this project and think about it as one solid narrative, you know, and I'll do it for myself. And eventually, if I get the chance to pitch it as a book, I'll pitch it as a book. Not knowing if that would ever happen, and not even knowing if, I mean, you know, I wound up changing editors, I think 3 times because of people getting fired or people leaving the company. And so, you know, and the whole time I just kept doing what I was doing. And it got to a point where I think I'd done 30 covers or almost 30 covers. And I thought, okay, this thing is taking shape. And it changed a bit from the initial idea, you know, because they started, they started having these, you know, like I said, the Huntress showed up, and they were going to have Batgirl, and I knew this stuff was coming up. And so I thought, well, I need to have a heroes and villains section. And if I wanted to tell this kind of like evergreen, iconic Batman story, you know, where you really don't need to have particulars and ins and outs. It's supposed to be the kind of thing that you can just give to somebody who might not even be familiar with Batman continuity, and they can flip through it. And it kind of is like, these are Batman's allies. These are his villains. This is what his life is like every night going out there. And so the project kind of kept evolving, but the initial idea pretty much stayed the same. I mean, I knew that the narrative through line from the beginning was going to be this Jack the Ripper kind of letter. You know, I really love those old letters, and I like how kind of blue collar those are. You know, it's clear that he wasn't Shakespeare. You know what I mean? Whoever was writing letters, and I like with Noel, I like that. I like that kind of everyman narrator. I think it's a cool way into a super intelligent character like Batman, specifically like a Detective Comics, you know, story or a detective story in general. I like the idea of making kind of the narrator an antagonist of Batman of some sort, and have him kind of taunting him the whole way through. But yeah, given that this had never been done before, and then it was also not a comic book, you know, it's a narrative, but it's not sequential art in the sense that you have panel by panel storytelling and dialogue and stuff like that. So it was a big swing. I thought, you know, it's 50-50 chance that they'll publish it, you know. And when I pitched it, like I said, after about 30 covers having been done, I thought enough is completed at this point. I can make my case for this book. And so I did. And this was like July of last year, I think. And even then, the book didn't get greenlit until this January. So it took a while. You know, I think even editorial at DC was trying to figure out if this was even something, you know, that people that people will get into. So yeah, I can definitely see how people would think about it as some kind of cash grab, but I mean, you know, at the end of the day, I can't worry about that. I just have to, you know, stay true to what I wanted to do with the book. And
so in your position, so you said that it was greenlit then in January. Is it hard? So I got to speak to you in April, and I think at the end of our conversation, I even talked to you about the covers, and obviously I knew nothing. And so I'm just like, man, I really wish that they, collect them somehow in the future. Is it hard for you on your end to keep that stuff, quiet still? Cause I think your response was I felt very genuine of like, yeah, if I can, swing their way, I hope so. And then that was it for me. And I'm like, well, I hope it comes, whatever it is.
It's twofold. So one, I
Yeah.
have to be a professional and let DC announce these things. I can't be the one to step in front of that. Like any publisher or any project, I can't be the one to go out there necessarily and say it's happening, even because I'm superstitious enough to believe that, especially with DC being what DC is now, at any moment plans can change, so I wait for them to be public. And Brian Azzarello told me once, he said, don't believe anything until you see the poster on the side of a bus. And I was like, that's a good way to look at it, because ultimately these things do tend to, sometimes we've had projects before that everybody's like, this is amazing, sounds great. And it never materializes for one reason or another. So, I can't, I can't, it's twofold, I guess. I can't be the one to spoil certain things, but on the other end, it's also just me saying, well, this thing might never happen. So, but now obviously it's, the printed copy is sitting here on my desk. So
as I saw these covers over the course of time, because, Ryan here is a super fan. I'm a super fan. So he sends me, or he'll send me stuff. Oh, look at this stuff by Lee, or he'll post it in the Batman on Film Facebook fan group, and because it just looks awesome. And so I'm just, I didn't catch on that, there may be a story going along with it. But even once I found out, and then I read it here from when DC sent it early, I've got the hard copy coming as I ordered it, but DC Publicity sends out the PDF files for us to review early. So I haven't looked at it. I haven't had it in my hand yet, which I'm anxious to do. But each image, each cover, or part of, it's each one says a lot, so much. The Batman holding the child, and just there's also it's more than just like a image or like a one-off typical comic book cover. I mean, it's just that deep of a piece of art about Batman that says a lot about the character. And then reading the story, and it's not like you said, a typical comic book, but it's like, each one is getting into showing Batman doing Batman things, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think that, like I said, I've done so much Batman stuff at this point, and I don't think that anybody needs necessarily from me another long form story, sequential Batman story right now. We just did, relatively recently, Batman Damned, and for me, it's really, really important in my career just to try things, especially now with the industry being what it is. I mean, there's a lot of product, and I really feel like it is this moment in time where you just kind of have to swing, for something. And it might not work, it might be, it might not even live up to its full potential necessarily. But I appreciate it when people take the swing, when I see people trying to do something different. And they haven't really done anything like this with Batman. I mean, the closest thing I think is the Paul Dini, Alex Ross story, but even then, those are very much sequential stories, and this requires, I think, more of the reader. And it isn't, every image doesn't necessarily flow into the next in such a way where it spells it out for a reader. I kind of hope they involve themselves in it in a different way, where they can kind of tell a bit of the story to themselves or wonder about it. You know, it's a strange kind of thing, because a criticism I hear a lot about my work is that it doesn't leave much to the imagination. And I agree with that. It's very fully rendered. It's very, it doesn't ask a lot of the reader to kind of step in and do work, because I do that work for them, you know? So, I mean, you know, even the like details like texture on Batman's costume and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
if this story can involve, or if this book, I should say, can involve a reader in a different way with my work, then that's a win in my book. You know, that's something that maybe I haven't done before and they haven't seen before.
I found myself, and I want to ask Ryan, he can comment. I just found myself as I'm going through and then reading through it and then looking at the art. I found myself really taking in the artwork much more, and for a longer period of time, I guess I should say, than I would like a typical comic book story, where I'm flipping through and I'm reading the bubbles, I'm reading the story. But I'm envisioning, like you said, like filling in the reader using imagination. But I'm thinking with each one, like, okay, what's going on here, or how'd this come to be? What, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of, it sounds like that's kind of what we're going for, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to speak for you. So whether I read you say it before, or you heard you say it, or just the impression I get from a lot of your work. So you say that it doesn't, your art doesn't leave a lot to the imagination. It is detailed, but I do think the stories that you're involved in are pretty interpretive, left open for the reader to kind of guide themselves a little bit. You're not telling them this is what you need to think at this point, and it's ending this way, and that's how you should think. So I guess number one, is that still kind of holds true for you? And two, do you just find that art is do you like a little bit more open-endedness to stories than direct, like I don't know how I want to explain, like tunnel vision of this is how this story is playing out? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. It is what I like, you know. I'm a yeah, you know, I prefer that those stories that you know, give you just enough to allow you to make up your own mind about them to a certain degree. I mean, I don't believe totally in the David Lynch kind of interpretive, you know, to the fullest degree. I think there should be definitely something concrete there for people to hold on to. But with this book, it is cover artwork, you know, so people expecting this to be a comic book or somehow, you know, a storytelling in the same way they would, you know, they would see a normal monthly book with word balloons and stuff. You know, that's not what this is. This is cover artwork that is, you know, strung together purposefully to take the reader on kind of this journey of who is Batman and really what Batman is about. And you know, the narration should definitely take a backseat, you know, to the artwork. It's there to kind of organize the pieces, you know what I mean? To allow you to say, okay, here's the allies, here are the villains. The Arkham scene is there pretty much just to show what we already know. I mean, everybody always talks about this. I mean, he puts all these guys away all the time, and they just wind up breaking out again, as you know. So the kind of futility of what he does, and at the same time the nobility of what he does, I think is what I really wanted to show, with the narration being a direct opposition of that concept. You know, so the narration is tearing him down, but what I'm hopefully showing is building him up. So that means the story is kind of working on two on two levels. That was the intention. Whether or not people will get that,
Oh yeah,
I'm not
Yeah.
sure. But
I'm with you. Speaking of
definitely-
narration, without giving away, I want, no spoilers. I don't want, in case someone is listening to this and then decides to pick it up, don't want to spoil anything. What the antagonist, the writer of the dialogue, what led you to pick that quote unquote person to be as non-spoilerish as possible? That's what to ask you.
I
that way.
appreciate
Yeah.
that. Seeing comic book resources just spoiled it.
Yeah.
They just did an article saying, this is for those of you who don't want to, follow the symbols and stuff like that. This is what those symbols mean. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was like, really, guys? That sucks. But when I think about Batman and I think about the nature of what the character does and who the character is, it's not like people are always like, oh, Joker's his greatest villain, or everybody has their own take on who his greatest villain is, what his mission is. But I mean, to me, it's pretty simple. It's like that, he is fighting something, and that something is war, or his, that's his greatest enemy right there. And so I like that idea that this is kind of, if I can boil the character down to the bare bones of what he is and let the rest kind of evaporate, what you're left with is a group of allies, a group of villains, what he does kind of nightly, and the kind of war he's waging. And I thought that's really all you need for a book that doesn't need to go necessarily much deeper than that. I mean, people who are looking for the nuanced version of all that have it every month to greater or lesser degree, but they have it every month in the Batman comic and countless other Batman books out. So I feel like my responsibility at this point is to give people something that, number one, anybody can pick up. I think that you can give this book to pretty much anybody, and even someone who might be turned off by comic book storytelling, can read this and hopefully enjoy it. But it's just throwing spaghetti up against the wall. It sticks.
I appreciate I thought that it was clever. And also it helped me feel like I felt a little smart because I was able to go back and, use the hints said earlier to pick up on things at the very end. But then also I think a fun strength is rereading it. I reread it differently, and it read just as cool the second time then, because I didn't know where it was going, but it didn't lessen the impact either. So it worked on that level a lot too, which I always appreciate with whether it's a TV show, a movie, a comic, a novel, anything like that.
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting for someone now to take this, to take the idea of doing the cover storytelling bit. I'm wondering if someone will find a different way to do it, because again, this is the first time it's been done. And so I'm sure someone's going to come along and do it better, but for what I've, for the experience I had with it, I think that it's just, again, there's so much Batman product out there. You're just looking for that crack that you can somehow sneak in something that is slightly different. Yeah.
So I'm a fan of the I don't know what it's technically called. I just call it the magazine format of Black Label. So transitioning your covers, which are, into fitting this format. Can you tell us a little bit, just I guess a little bit about that, if there's anything that needs changed, or I guess I don't know how you convert from, it's a very, like a vertical style to more of a complete square.
Right.
If that impacts your art and the way you're drawing and stuff like that.
Well, the book was pitched at the Alex Ross Pauldini size. So
Oh, okay.
it was supposed to be a big, kind of a large, one of those large.
Oh, like the really oversized.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was what it was intended to be, because that would have enabled us just to do the covers completely as they were printed, but much larger.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that's one of those formats that DC just doesn't like doing. They don't sell, or at least that's what they told me. So there was the only other choice in terms of making it oversized at this page count, according to them, was the Black Label size. So the bummer was having to reformat the pages to that size, because you do lose a bit of every cover that way. The positive thing that comes from that is that I think to a certain extent it almost focuses the images more. I really had to pick that area of interest, and often with covers you leave a bit of space at the top just for the logo and address and stuff. Now with the variant covers, the title is so small that you don't need to really worry about that as much as before. But there was definitely a few covers that had some space on them, and there were other images that had almost no space I wanted to cut. So it was a little uncomfortable having to go through there and make those decisions. But such as publishing, I guess. They have formats they think work, and kind of limited it that way.
With Damned, launching Black Label, and I mean, it was all, at least as far as I know, it was announced it was going to be this format. Do you like this format, personally?
Yeah, I do love it. I think it's really more widescreen, and if you use it right. There's I know some artists who have a really hard time with it. They don't like it. They prefer the traditional,
standard.
Yeah. But I liked it. I started Damned at normal size, and then I think I forget 20 some 30 pages. I forget what it was into it. They decided to change. They decided to try this new format, and so I had to digitally alter those initial pages to fit the Damned format. But afterwards I really liked them almost more. That the format's cool. And again, I think it's just it's just a matter of trying to give people something that feels a little different when you can, and something that separates it even further from your typical Batman comic.
Well, I certainly I will say for myself, I was reading and I was thinking it was one person in particular.
Sure.
And got to the end, and even I hadn't gone back to put the clues together, and just reached out to Ryan like, yeah, it was awesome. I read it, and he kind of put me on the right track, and I was like, oh, and it just I went, wow, yeah, okay, that's even cooler than what I was thinking. And going back and reading it, as he said, it made it, for me, it was cooler, more fun, more insightful the second time through, at least. And going back and looking at the artwork again, so certainly anybody, I'd highly recommend, go to your comic book store, support your comic book store, pick it up. If you don't have one near you, get on Amazon or wherever you can find comics. So this is certainly something that you want to add to your collection for sure. So can I ask you a couple questions, just as a Batman fan?
Sure.
Okay. So Ryan and I and other members of Team BOF are doing a series. I've never done this before with a Batman film, but we're doing the Batman by it's called Batman Chapter by Chapter, and we're
Okay.
doing it based on how the Blu-rays divided up into its scenes and chapters. And it's been really interesting to go back and look at that film and focus on just like, 10 minutes at a time.
Mhm.
But is there a particular part of that film that is your favorite?
Yeah, my favorite scene is when Batman goes to visit the Riddler in Arkham. I think
Okay.
that's when he's firing on all cylinders, because
Yeah.
that bit of acting that Pattinson does, where and you as the viewer think, oh, he
Mhm.
knows who Batman is.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and Pattinson has that little eye. He just looks at the camera, in the room,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
this is the moment where my cover is going to be blown,
Mhm.
and he sells that in such a subtle, nuanced way, and Dano is just being super cool. I thought that scene was really interesting. It really kind of also flipped the typical Batman goes to Arkham to visit the inmate scene on its head, because it's usually Batman grabbing him by the collar and shaking him and
Yeah.
yelling at him in the ear, his teeth gritted and everything. And that flipped the dynamic, I thought, in a really interesting way. I love that scene. I thought that was masterfully
That scene is one of my main arguments, or main what I use as evidence of why you don't put lenses on a Batman actor in live action and take away their eyes, because especially in that scene, but throughout the film, the stuff that Pattinson does with just his body language and his eyes is tremendous. I don't know if I've seen that since like Keaton in Batman '89, so I thought it was great. We haven't got to that part of the film yet, but we're getting close. We've done 11 chapters, and we're going to do, there are 18 and there's 19 if you count the credits. We are going to do the credits because Matt Reeves gave a shout out to you and others
Yeah.
for the influence that you all had on him and the Batman. And I think I've asked you before, but you had to be thinking it was really cool that you got your name up there and Reeves gave you a shout out.
Yeah, I mean, it was just as a Batman fan, like you said,
Yeah.
to see your name up there. There were names on that list that were formative creators for me, Neil Adams and Marshall Rogers, Dick Sprang, all those guys who, when I was reading Batman as a kid, really, meant something to me. And that was a moment, it was definitely one of those, crazy moments in my career where I thought, how did I get here? But no, very, very, very cool for sure. Yeah.
What does it feel like to have, I mean, the bat suit is so much inspired by you. How do you feel about that? I want to say, I mean, you think it's a compliment, I would think, right?
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I forget who I was talking to about this. Might have been Sean Murphy. I forget who, but this, this film in particular, aesthetically, I just thought was, for my taste, it's my favorite Batman film.
Mhm.
Aesthetics of this movie, from the cinematography to the production design, everything about it was, just killer to me. And so I think for the first time, maybe for the first time since Batman '89, because that was just so new to me and so fresh at when I saw that, I was 12 or something. So that movie blew my mind when it came out aesthetically. And I still think I still love it for that. But this film is way more in tune with what I've always wanted to see, wanted to see with the character. And so for that, I have to say, you know, it tickles me to see, you know, certain things that, you know, like you said, like the suit, or even moments in the film, which I don't, you know, like I said, there's a lot of Batman comics, so it's not like it's necessarily picked from any of any of my books, but you know, the moment of him just like walking across the street and knocking on the door of the club. It's like in Batman Damned, there's that moment of him walking across the street from the low shot of his boots and the cape, walking across the street to, you know, and I just thought those shots, even the choices of those shots were so much like choices I would make. You know what I mean? Again, not to say that they were that was them looking at my work at all. Just to say that I think, you know, aesthetically we share a lot of similarities in terms of the way they, you know, the way they did Gotham and yeah, that it was for that, from that aspect, I thought it was by far my favorite thus far.
There is a shot. I can't remember right off if it was at the toward the end at that Gotham Square Garden, or it was at Iceberg Lounge, but he leaps from high above and drops down, and the shot, it reminded me of you as well, your artwork, just the image of Batman with the cape, and then, you know, his legs kind of, you know, the knees bent a little bit before he drops to the ground. Looked really, really good. So
have you ever drawn Batman, Lee, with I guess with lenses? Because I've been thinking about it in your stories, and I think you've always seen his eyes in your comic art for Batman.
I had to do it once.
You did? Okay.
I had to do it for a Secret Origins cover because it was, and same thing for the Superman costume and the issue before that. That was the one time where DC editorial was pretty insistent that I do the New 52 versions of those characters. And so that's one of the reasons why I can't look at those covers now, because I just think, if I'd just been able to do my version of these, I think they would be better covers. But I you know, I don't like the white lenses with Batman. I just think part of the human element is really lost, you know, with if he can't stare at you, you know, those white eyes are great for other characters, you know, like Spider-Man, you know, countless other characters, they totally work. But for Batman, I think that if you're not leaning into the humanity in one way or another, you're kind of losing an important part of, you know, of him to me.
Yeah. Even in the comics, I like when you get artwork with him without the lenses, because even though it's a drawing, you can still use the eyes a lot like in the film to portray emotion and expression, like Earth One. He didn't, you know, it was like that. Yeah. So that's my thing, because I know a lot of fans are like, he'd look really cool if he had, you know, white glowing eyes, and I'm like, no, you don't want to take that away from an actor, man. Especially after, you know, look at the Batman. Look at what Pattinson did. So Ryan, anything else for Lee? For
oh man, I've got a ton of questions, but I don't want to keep them all day. But I do have a couple, and I don't and I'll be quick about them, Lee, for sure. I think I've always forgotten to ask you. You've been pretty upfront in your appreciation of Dick Sprang's art.
Yeah.
So I think we all have ones that are surprising. So I was actually just talking to Bill about this. The Batman of Zur-En-Arrh. Are you familiar?
No.
Okay. Grant Morrison brought him up. It's the Batman suit where it's like red, purple, and yellow. It's really out there. Knowing Bill's sensibilities, I would have never guessed Bill to be a fan of the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh, but he is. looking at your Batman work is, it's mature, it's dark and stuff. And then to know that you really appreciate Dick Sprang's art, which I feel is almost the exact opposite of that. Do you know where the Dick Sprang art, like your appreciation stems from? Like what it was about his art that really struck you?
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, the first Batman thing I ever saw was the movie from the '60s. That was the first Batman thing I was, that was it for me.
Yeah.
So, and as a result, I remember even when the first Burton movie was coming out, they were reprinting a lot of older Batman stories. It was my first, it was my first introduction to the Detective 27, and then some of the other Dick Sprang stuff, and Bill Finger and Bob Kane work at the time. So I mean, I really got into that stuff, even so much so that I really loved that older version of the costume, the kind of, wider kind of longer ears that Bob Kane was doing at the time, and the circular belt buckle, all that kind of stuff. I loved it, but Dick Sprang, I think, is just talking about Batman iconography. And his work is just synonymous with the character to me. And even if you take it down the line, even Frank Miller took a lot, I think, from Dick Sprang's version of the character.
Great point. Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's just, there are these people who stand really tall, Neil Adams being one, Dick Sprang being another, obviously Frank Miller and Mazzucchelli. There are these people who really have these kind of character defining versions. And then you have these other amazing artists in between, who do their own thing, maybe to a lesser extent have been that iconic. You have Marshall Rogers, or you have Norm Brayfogle, or you have all these guys who've done incredible work with the character. And it's even Jim Lee, he has his own version of the character, which it's awesome, but I don't think it's really iconic just because it's such a mixture of Franks and Neil Adams. It's kind of, to me, like their illegitimate child, Jim's version. But I mean, that's the thing about Dick Sprang, I think, more than anything. He's just so, he stands so tall.
I've got the poster hanging on in my office wall that you did. It's one of the covers. It's your Batman in profile on the left, Dick Sprang Batman up at the top, kind of a Neil Adams Batman, and then the Bob Kane as well.
Yeah,
I love that piece of work, and it was just it's awesome. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. I wanted to fit the Miller Batman on there too. It was just too much. I had to make a choice about what I would do, but that cover was a cool nod to all the versions I really like.
Matthew Rosenberg is launching a Joker series next month, The Joker, the Man Who Stopped Laughing, and you have posted some Joker variants, one which I absolutely love, of Joker as Santa Claus. I think that one is fantastic. Is this obviously I don't try to pry, but is this maybe another long deal of Joker variants to where we all need to jump in from issue one?
No, okay. I won't do the same. I won't do the same thing. I mean, not with the Joker. I think that I think after this experience, if I did it again, it might become like a gimmick, and people, I would be afraid of that. Although eventually it might be cool to do it with Action Comics, just because you have Detective Comics that would be kind of cool to do the Superman version in kind of a similar way. But I mean, the Joker, what I really want to do with these Joker covers is just make them ridiculous. I want to make them silly and have one with him dancing with Harley Quinn as the world blows up around them, and there's Joker faced atom bomb going off, but I just want to do kind of weird stuff, and that Santa Claus cover was I can't believe they approved that, but I'm glad they did.
Are these going to be like pretty? I don't know the exact technical terms, but as far as like variants that are going to be everywhere, or are they like the one? Is it like 125 or 120? Do you have any idea?
Good question. I have no idea how those
Okay.
I don't know how those things work. I think they're doing 3 or 4 variants every issue, or at least I've seen
Okay.
3 piece to every issue. So I don't know what might fit in that.
I plan to get both covers of Dear Detective because I liked the one I'm showing you, which I think is I don't know, you call that the main one, but then the one of him next to the neon sign. But the comic shop I was at didn't have any of the ones with the neon sign, which I think made me wonder. And maybe I saw somebody say online, maybe that was a 120 or a 125 or something.
Really?
So yeah, it just made me wonder.
50. Huh. That's interesting. I didn't know
Okay.
that.
Or
Huh.
I don't know. I'm just usually they have the the variants in stock as well, and they didn't have this one. So I'll check others. Here for Batman on Film, I've gotten to actually speak with Sean Murphy twice this year, and he's awesome. And he specifically mentioned you. Were you aware that you are his calm or his zen?
Oh, I was not aware of that at all. No.
Yeah, he mentioned that. I forget why he brought you up real quick, or maybe I did because it was after I talked to you or something. And he was like, "Oh, it's one of those things. If I go into a bar and Lee's there, that's where I go to because he's my zen, he's my calm."
That's fine. Yeah, Darwin Cook used to refer to me as as Jesus, which I always thought was weird. But I always thought it was because I had long hair and beard at the time. Bill, you remember back when I was I had the long hair, which that's years ago now. But yeah, I remember that was Darwin Cook would always call me Jesus. It was like, and yeah, he was like, "You're always so calm." Like, I don't feel calm, but okay, that's cool.
Well, now I'd love to see at some point, and just suggestion. I'd like to see your take on Batman of Zur-En-Arrh, and it's a ridiculous concept, Lee. It's like from 1958 in Batman, was it 113, Ryan? Around that. But if you know how crazy Batman stories had gotten in mid to late 50s, right? Very sci-fi and all that stuff. So this one was a story where a Batman on the planet Zur-En-Arrh had been using this gigantic telescope to spy on Batman of Earth, and he brings him there for some some kind of or another. And then they did a Batman Brave and the Bold animated, that animated series. They did that. They did a take of that on it. It's really great. But Grant Morrison, when his run on Batman, he took that premise of Zur-En-Arrh and made it like a fail-safe for Batman, where if Batman is like in really bad trouble, Bruce Wayne totally goes away, and this Zur-En-Arrh Batman takes over, and it's Batman without Bruce Wayne. So
okay,
I just thought it was a kind of, because it's as crazy as that, I'm not a fan of Batman in space and all that stuff. And I remember as a kid thinking or reading those old reprints, like, oh, God, that's kind of dumb, But when Grant Morrison did it and made it this fail-safe Batman, and that, I just thought it was kind of cool. And so in the current run of Batman, that's this version is back for a variety of reasons. So, but yeah, Zur-En-Arrh is crazy, man.
I'm here for any kind of craziness. I just like anything that isn't what's the right word for it? I like anything that isn't just a rehash, a copy of a copy of a copy. There's so much Batman that it just feels like, there's those guys that are just like, they're great artists, but they're pretty much just doing Jim Lee or whoever, it's like, it's great. It's, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's not for me. Cause I just feel like, it's like at that point it's just underwear drawings or whatever for me. But the crazier they get with it and kind of the more extreme that people go, there was this, you guys know an artist named Charles Burns. He did a book called Black Hole. kind of an independent comic.
No.
He has this really kind of 1950s style, and he did this amazing Batman piece that just is kind of silly and fun of Batman kneeling in a cave with, you know, like a big bat, or so I forget exactly what it is, but I like all that kind of stuff. You know?
Yeah, I like when the artists do different stuff. I like, you know, like Batman Year 100, Paul Pope, you know, that take on Batman is, you know, is
Paul,
different. And it, yeah.
So cool. I love Paul's interpretation of Batman. You know, I was a big fan of that.
It has nothing to do. I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead,
I was going to say it has nothing to do with DC. It's just me as a fan. Have you ever, even on your own, attempted to draw the Ninja Turtles?
Yeah, I did a Ninja Turtles cover actually. It's on
You
my
did?
Instagram. Yeah, you can. It's on my Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, I gave them tits.
Appropriate. How recent was that? Just so I know how deep to go.
Pre-pandemic, so probably 2000
Pre-pandemic.
or
Okay.
something.
I'll search it out.
Yeah, it's on my Instagram for sure. It was I mean, that's, you know, I was what, 10 or 12, or, you know, when that cartoon, I guess, was coming out and that first movie came out. And, I definitely was into all those independent comics at the time, like The Crow and Ninja Turtles and all that kind of black and white, independent, late 80s stuff.
Yeah.
So I like the Ninja Turtles, but I like the kind of original, darker Ninja Turtles stuff. I'm not a super fan of the cartoon or kind of, you know, goofier version of it.
Yeah.
There it is. I found it.
Yeah.
Nice.
That made his
Awesome.
day.
Yeah.
All right, man. We'll let
Spence.
you go. Plug whatever you would like, Lee.
I can't plug anything else right now. I can, it's annoying, but soon I will be able to talk about the next thing.
Okay.
Cool.
But yeah, unfortunately, all I can plug right now is Dear Detective, and unfortunately,
Well, that's why we're here. That's yes.
Dear Detective. Yeah, no. You know, hopefully people dig it, and yeah, thanks again, guys. I appreciate, as always, the support, and it's always awesome to talk. And yeah, very cool.
Well, I know my followers, the Batman on Film followers, were already buzzing about Dear Detective, just from the social media posts. So they'll get a kick out of hearing us talk about it. So thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. And you know, you can come on anytime you want to and talk Batman. You can talk about, just come on and be one of the panelists and talk about something
Anything.
Batman. That doesn't have to be Lee Bermejo Batman.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. You know, I love talking about Batman. So I appreciate the offer for sure.
Well, I appreciate Bill. Thanks for letting me come on, and Lee, thanks for talking with you again. It is a treat when I do get to speak with you, because I'm a fan, and it was cool to learn that your first person that you met or first artist was Norm Brayfogle, who I've always said is, you and him, that's my favorite Batman artist. So it's always a treat. And I know you said that earlier in this discussion that maybe people don't need another long form Bermejo story, and I fully disagree. So just take that
I concur,
as you will,
yes.
I
because in the circles I'm in, people are massive fans of Bermejo Batman. So
the trick is, I think the trick is not killing people with Batman, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
I think every artist who does Batman for a little, they go through that period where people, you know, poo-poo their stuff a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's like you have that moment in time where, you know, people were, you know, not able to look maybe at the Marshall Rogers stuff, or the stuff that was being done at that moment in time, like they do maybe now, you know. And it's just, I don't, you know, I know that sooner or later that's going to happen to me too, where people, my version will be kind of passe, you know what I mean? And then when my version becomes passe, then I'll do another project, and you know, and switch it up a bit. I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'll do another Batman project at some point. It's I love the character so much. It's just,
Yeah.
right now I've done so much Batman stuff that I feel like I kind of have to do.
I got you. Yeah. Got you. Two things and I'll let you go. And I just thought about it because I looked over here. I did pick up, I think I emailed you. I picked up the Black Adam Batman, McFarlane Batman figure. And I was kind of like, look what I got, man. You're like, wasn't too fond of that. I was like, oh man, I got it, but I liked it, you know.
I like it.
Batman looks like he's smelling a fart or something. He has this look on his face that is, and they changed a bunch of stuff too on those. I mean, they changed the symbol, they changed the belt buckle, they did all these weird arbitrary.
Okay.
They did all these.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Changes. I don't know why they did those, and yeah, it was that was unfortunate. I was kind of hoping those would turn out to be cooler, but hey, I'm happy people like them. Good. You know?
And I will say, last thing, I promise, we have not got to the chapter in the Batman of the Arkham scene with the Riddler. So you have an open invitation to come on that podcast and talk about that particular chapter, since you told me it was your favorite.
I mean, that would be cool, actually. The other scene, you guys are going to do the Joker scene, right? You'll get to that, I'm sure, eventually.
Let's do it, Bill. We can do like an extra, I don't know, an extras chapter or something, and we'll talk the Joker.
Yeah,
scene.
yeah,
there you go.
Sure.
Yeah.
Bill, did you send him the picture that you unearthed that you posted online of, I think, circa 2006? You meeting Lee, or your picture with?
Oh
Lee?
yeah.
I did. Yeah.
Sorry, Jesus. When you met Jesus at Comic-Con.
Yeah. That was a minute ago. Yeah. That was back when you could walk just straight into Hall H at Comic-Con San Diego and not have to camp out.
I've never been in Hall H.
Well,
I've been going to San Diego for years and I've never been able to get into Hall H. It's like
literally that year I just walked straight in. There was no line, and then within the next 2 years it became nuts, and the only way I got in was I got a press pass from Warner Brothers for something they were doing that was Batman related. So that was the only way, because there was no way I was camping out there to stand, to get in. So
I wonder if that's still going to be the thing, now that they're doing San Diego again. I mean, I don't, Warner Brothers had their panel this year.
Yeah.
And, I know Marvel did too. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if they're going to get back in having that be a, thing. Like you see people camping out for days to get in.
Yeah. If they have big stuff like that, I would say they did. I don't know what the turnout was for this one. I guess I'm assuming it was just as big as it always was, or close, or I have no idea. So I don't know if they were camping out going on or any of that stuff. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, man. I'm gonna let you run. Appreciate it again. Have a good evening, sir.
Yeah, you guys too.
All right, thanks.
All right,
thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the BOF Social Hour, Jett's official vlog and podcast on Batman on Film. Follow Jett on Twitter @BatmanOnFilm. Follow the BOF newsfeed on Twitter @The Batman on Film. For Jett and everyone at BOF, I'm announcer Rachel. Authoritative, definitive, the original, Batman on Film, established in 1998.